Welcome back to Setubal, Portugal, and to the live coverage of the 2025 World Aquatics Open Water Swimming World Cup. I'm Will Rollo, joined once again by Olympian and World Aquatics commentator Alice Deering, and we're here just off the coast of Setubal, racing in the Atlantic waters near the mouth of the Sardo River. An iconic venue for open water swimming and a favourite stop on the World Cup circuit. Conditions today are steady, the field is deep, and the women's 10-kilometre race promises no shortage of drama. With Olympic medalists, rising stars, and World Cup contenders all on the start list, this is a race that could shape the rest of the season. Alice, we've got a quality field and fair conditions. What do you think will be the key to success out there today?
Hey, well, so great to be back with you. And the key to success today, I think, is being able to be adaptable. Setubal, as we know, is a very tough technical race. We are dealing with different conditions than usual. So it's important for all of the athletes, whatever level they're at, to be ready for the unexpected and just able to answer to what the course has to offer, but what also their fellow competitors are putting on the line as well.
Such a great point, and that is what this course is going to provide today. As we saw this morning, it was a little bit sunnier and a little bit warmer, but as the day's gone on, 5 p.m. local time, we will be starting the race. So you can see the conditions have started to turn, and that's where we will see our athletes really fighting through this 6-lap course. 25 degrees air temperature, 19.8 degrees in the water. And Alice, it is a new course this year, but Setubal always extremely challenging.
Yes, as we spoke about in the men's race, Setubal is like, I always think that testing ground. It's that moment where you can really shine as open water swimmers. It's very traditional, tough open water racing. And the fact that it's the staple on the World Aquatics World Cup gender, I think it just always excites me so much. It's a little bit of a love-hate relationship with athletes with this race and with this course, but it's always such a great testing ground, and to have it as the final stop before the World Championships, I think just makes so much sense. And it's we were already treated to such a fantastic race with the men's, and I really can't wait to see what the women put out here.
Speaking of the women, we're just moments away from being introduced to our athletes. 33 women will take to the course today. There will only be one winner, of course. We do have some other events that will be contended throughout, that, of course, including the overall points title for the open athletes and the junior athletes. And, of course, one event that we have begun to love this year, the sprint lap, the money lap, the very first lap underway, and so far this year there's been one woman who has dominated that opening lap, Ginevra Tadaducci of Italy, and Alice, both of us are backing her in early on in today's race.
Yeah, Tadaducci is one of my favorite racers across both like the men's and the women's. I think I love the predictability she brings to it. It's an exciting predictability. You get Ginevra Tadaducci getting in and doing her thing front, showcasing her strength and robustness, and the stroke rate that she can put out is just so impressive.
Last year's champion also will be introduced shortly. Leah Boy of Germany, unfortunately not selected to represent Germany at the upcoming World Championships, the second year in a row where she struggled to qualify for the highest level. So we will see her in action, and she has a lot to prove once more this year.
Yeah, certainly. We haven't seen the Italian team being picked yet, so interesting to see who they go with. Ginevra Tavzucci already put in so much work. I think she's the top Italian woman to beat, but you have Barbara Posavon behind her, um, Gabrieleschi as well. So many fantastic racers from Italy that can be competitive with that.
That's it. And that's where we get to see them so strong once more. This course, as we talked about, Alice, is really tough, but specifically starting off 150 meters from the starting pontoon to the first turn. What are you trying to do as an athlete to set yourself up in that first 150 to make sure you get around that first turn can safely.
Yeah, so that first 150 meters is crucial. You really want to find yourself in a good position that you're happy in. Some swimmers, for some swimmers, this will be out at front, sat, you know, top 10, top five, potentially top three, really gunning for it to that first can. Behind there will be some swimmers who are quite happy to be sat anywhere like 20th to 30th place as long as they're comfortable. And then once you get round that buoy, that's when you can really start to like open up and find that space. But that first 150 meters, it's one of those where you don't want to like overthink it over or put too much pressure on it, but you really need to be switched on, especially with the fact that there is the existence of the money lap. It means that things are going to be fast. You know they're going to be fast from the start. It's guaranteed. So you do need to be switched on in those opening few moments.
How much effort do you think these athletes should be putting into that money lap? I guess it's one of those things you don't want to spend all your chocolates in the opening lap and then having nothing left for the back end of the race. But certainly offers an opportunity for some of the younger athletes and also some of our more experienced athletes to give it a crack. And the guarantee is that once you've won that money lap, you have achieved some outcomes from today and almost get to race with a little bit pressure through the rest of the 10 kilometers.
It's so true. It's a really, really great opportunity to get in and get something achieved early on. One of the drawbacks of a 10K is that you have to swim so far to like achieve something, to get to the finish and things like that. So having that opportunity for athletes to be in early to swim 1.6K, 1.7K, earn $1,000, and then potentially just switch it off. We saw Marc Antoine do it at in the men's race, came through, got that win in the first lap, and then just switched off completely, and then settled into a nice rhythm, and then bam, where was he? He was able to win at the end too. So um, I think you can take a lot of confidence from the fact that there is a direct correlation with winning the money lap and also placing really high at the end of the race too.
Yeah, very keen to break down exactly how Mark went about his business today and how that ultimately led to the win and what that means for the course as well. As we see coming out now is Bettina Fabian. She's been on a hot streak this year in both the medals in Ibiza, both the 3 kilometer knockout and the 10 kilometers. So she carries great form, as does Angela Martinez, the winner in Ibiza in the home crowd, of course, Alice.
Yes, Angela Martinez had such a great race. Really good to see her back here, backing it up, putting herself in this position. We got Genevieve Tadeucci, as we were just speaking about, who we are expecting to be the one to watch on the first lap. But, we just saw Leah Boyd, Jeanette Spiewaks. Of course, have I think both of our predictions for the overall winner for today's race in Moesha Johnson just walking out now. She's currently sat sixth, I believe, in the overall rankings. Olympic silver medalist behind Sharon Van Rooyendaal. She has been on such impressive form. We'll be speaking more about her in the coming minutes in the race, but also super exciting. And just want to shout out as well, as you see on the screen, Brinkley Hansen too. A lot of potential coming from this young American.
Yeah, her first ever senior race will be taking to the water very shortly for Brinkley Hansen. As you can see there, the 33 athletes set to take to the water. So not far away from the start here, Alice. Any final thoughts on how this race will play out?
I think it's going to have to be a fast start. It always is a fast start with the races now, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to see where when Moesha decides to take this into her own hands.
We're about set here in Setubal. The athletes are on the pontoon. The final checks are done, and the 10 kilometers of open water racing now lies ahead. It is a course they know well, but it's never forgiving. Expect an aggressive first lap, jostling for position, and a long tactical game to unfold. They are off and underway. Strong, even start across the field. We're already seeing some of the athletes start to spread. Alice, you've been there before. What don't you want to do off the line in a race like this?
Oh, a fantastic question. So off the line, I think as long as you keep your composure in some way and contend with whatever you're dealt, you will be okay. The problem is when you start to panic that you're not as high up as you wanted to be, or you're further back, or you're next to people that you didn't expect to be next to, whether that's further up than you're expecting or further back. You really have to just kind of play the cards you're dealt, especially in the lineup, because it's a random draw. Sometimes you can't help if you're starting on the far end of the course, or far side of the start line, sorry. And you really just have to play the cards you're dealt. You can't overthink it too much. So committing to the line you've got, finding the right feet, or if you're going to be that person punching for the front, going for it and committing to it. Don't try and do it half-heartedly, because there are so many other women who are trying to do exactly the same thing as you. You need to really commit to it. So I'd say commit,
Yeah.
and don't overthink.
Yeah, I love that advice. That. I mean, to be fair, it's sound advice for any stage of your open water swimming career, any race of your open water swimming career. That is perfect advice. But as we look to the front of the race now, it looks like it may be Kajimoto of Japan sort of pushing the pace early, and then with a Hungarian alongside her. You know, only a couple months ago we would say for absolute certainty that is Bettina Fabian, but I believe it could be Victoria from Hungary, who's had just such a meteoric rise over the last couple of months.
Yes, it's so true. You know, we have Eva Ristov. Um, Her name is Anna. Anna from Hungary. I'm
Anna
really sorry. Her
Olaz.
last name has Olaz. Thank you so much, Anna Olaz from Hungary as well. Kind of another generation, and now we see a new generation with Bettina Fabian, and then a new generation with Victoria as well. And you know, we really see this is quick from. I think. Do we think it's Kajimoto leading this to start with? This is
Yeah, I think it
really
is
impressive.
Kajimoto, and she's opened the gap, but yeah, I mean, this is a sizable gap, really going after it. And the one thing that I've seen from the Japanese, they're not too interested in the sprint lap, the money lap. So, like, I'd love to know. Oh, sorry, Abina. And to be fair, we've seen this before from Abina at the World Champs of all places. She was a bull at a gate in the opening lap in Doha last year. So, not unfamiliar, but this is a cracking pace early on.
Yeah, I'm always like, what is the what land prep are you doing to be able to get in and do this? Did she? This is what always fascinates me about the first lap, because you really have to be so switched on in your land prep, in doing everything correctly to make sure when you get in the water, your heart rate's high enough and you can really commit to it and go for it.
That's it, and that's what she's doing. I mean, clearly swimming with intent here. This sort of pace, like often you'd watch the start of an open water race and you'd think, oh, you know, how did this swimmer get to the front of the race, and why are they swimming in their own space? And for most of the time, it is just having a good start and managing to find clear water, but often when we see Abina in this position, when we see these play out more often, we see the athletes just absolutely committing to the start, hoping that there's going to be some sort of break that's formed. But, you know, you look back to arguably the most famous case of this back in the 2016 Olympics, where we had Jared Port of Australia lead for 9 kilometres of that race and then get caught and just unfortunately for Porty, just absolutely capitulate down the final straight and finish in the 20s. So I've yet to see a successful delivery of this strategy at a world stage, but it's certainly a bold attempt.
Definitely. And the one thing that I do love about this strategy is you can't say you didn't try. And I know that seems like quite condescending, and at the end of it, like it's not what the swimmer wants. But you really got in and left everything out there, and there's no what ifs. There's no, oh, if I'd been more tactical or smarter here or more proactive, I could have got maybe a better result. No, you're really getting in and committing to it. And honestly, there'll be some chaos happening behind, because I'm sure this is much faster than anybody was putting out there. You know, would have had my money on Ginevra Tadaducci to be that one up at the front at the moment. But, the gap isn't getting any wider and currently swimming against the current. So be interesting to see how this develops. But already you can see the pack getting strung out a little bit. But I do think it is bridgeable once the panic has probably died down towards the front of the pack.
Yeah, and you speak to the sort of star power that's sitting in that second chase group as well, and they will be able to get this lead back into the group eventually. And in fact, as we talk, it is starting to shut down even further. One of the things that I did want to mention though, Alice, is and sort of why there's been such a big gap between the men's and women's races today is a massive tidal influence in Setubal here on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean in Portugal. The open water course sits at the interface of the river and the ocean, which means the tide driven is massive, and because of that, we have these huge currents that push through the course as well. I'd really encourage any of the listeners or viewers around the world to go onto the World Aquatics Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, wherever your social platform is, and just check out some of the stories of these athletes swimming. You can really see the pace of the current moving past the stationary object, like a feeding pontoon as the athletes are diving in. And with that in mind, obviously we saw Marc-Antoine Olivier take the sprint lap out and then move all the way back in the field and not move back to the front until the final 600 meters. And I really think, like, having some time after the men's race, what we're going to see, if we don't have a breakaway win, which is definitely a potential, if we don't have a breakaway win, I think the athlete that wins today's race is one that doesn't sit at the front. So,
Yes.
again, a very big call, 7 minutes into the race, and I did the same thing in the men's race, and it backfired on me. But Alice, I think with that tide, Mark was racing with absolute perfection today.
Yes, that's such a good point. I think, yeah, without a huge breakaway, it will be the person that keeps themselves out of trouble, keeps themselves in a really smart position where they're not having to do too much work against currents, they're not having to over navigate or overcorrect when going around turn buoys and dealing with that current. And we did see Mark execute that so well. This is a course that is so technical, so tactical, and requires a lot of effort from the swimmers to make sure it's right. And you can see it happening here, where the pack has gone so much wider because of the current, and they have to like curve around the buoy now,
Yeah.
and to take it, and that is so much wider than you would ever normally see. But because of the current, it's forcing them that way, and it plays havoc in the pack, because all of a sudden you look up and you realize you have to overcorrect to the left by about 10 meters, which doesn't sound very far, but when you're dealing with an open water course, every meter that you're swimming further is more energy and more time wasted.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, even in pool terms, like if you are competing against an athlete doing 100 meters and you have to do 110, the impact of that is monumental. You like,
Yes.
you wouldn't give that up for free, and that's why it's so important in these races to sit forward, but not all the way forward. You don't want to be leading today's race with the sort of current and environmental factors that are at play. But obviously, some of these athletes were expecting to potentially break away. Even as we say this, Sabina is absolutely flying here, Alice.
Yeah, that
Like,
gap's grown.
yeah, around that turn cam, that was a very impressive turn.
She had a much better line going into it. I know she still had to overcorrect by quite a lot, but the pack continued to drift further out while she corrected it. So like we were saying, there's probably 3 or 4 meters in that the pack swam further than Abina did. So I absolutely love this for her. This is what I've constantly kept saying about the not sorry, that's the Australian team, the Japanese team. Fantastic to see them putting their athletes in these positions and giving them the opportunity to get in and say, yeah, go for it. I don't know what the Japanese qualification is. I imagine it's probably sewn up, and I think they fielded 2 athletes in the men's and 2 athletes in the women's. I imagine it's those 4 athletes going to the World Championships, definitely in the 10. And great, it's really good experience. And how much of a confidence boost is this for her, knowing that she can do this to the field? Like, the caliber of women behind her are very high and very good. You know, you've got Lisa Powell and Genevieve Taducci up front. They are two swimmers who are very quick, who absolutely love the sprint lap. And Abina's making this look like child's play at the moment.
Yeah, you know that Tadaducci is not going to be very happy to have the sprint lap taken away from her. She, of course, took the sprint title last year on the very last lap of the series, and has taken both the win in Soma Bay and Ibiza. So she is charging through. You can see that high stroke rate that we talked about, Alice. But Abina is still taking it to her, and this is a massive lead. Like, honestly, if Abina rolls over after the sprint lap and sort of turns on her back and waits for someone else to take the lead, like we've seen Tadaducci do in races previous, she would be absolutely silly, because this is a very impressive opening lap here from the Japanese swimmer, and she's swimming with intent that looks like this isn't just a one-lap effort, you know?
I was thinking that, you know, this is the kind of lead that you're like, hey, let's see what we can do. Like, why not? It's really strong. I think Tadaducci is closing it. I think Abina will still. I forget how long this, apologies, I forget how long this straight is at the moment, because traditionally at Setubal it was a much shorter gap between the final turn buoy and the finish arc slash the timing gate. I think it was maybe 300 meters, whereas now we're dealing with 650. So much longer, much more drawn out. But I'm still confident Abina will be taking home this money lap. Be great to see her take home that $1,000. Another great win for Japan in that sense. And I think she will carry on with it. From what I know of the Japanese swimmers and the way they train, they're very tough, very relentless, and it won't be, oh yeah, just go for it and then drop off. It'll be, no, let's keep going, let's see what you can do, let's see what you can do to the field.
It's such a good point, and something that only happens if it's been deliberately planned. You know, this is I'd love to know what was said prior to the race, and how that's going to be approached going through the race. But the one thing that we'll keep an eye on here, Alice, is we talked about pre-race, is we expect Moesha Johnson to be sitting close to Genevieve Taducci after lap 1, and potentially a move to come at the end of lap 1. As it stands, I can't see Moesha near Tadaducci. There is a swimmer just sitting off her heels, but it looks like an Italian cap from... obviously, this angle is very hard to tell. Here we go, it's a better shot. Tadaducci this is, I mean, clinical by her. She loves the sprint lap.
Yes.
But what the reaction will be after the sprint lap is going to be interesting, because, you know, most of the field are used to Tadaducci sprinting this opening lap and then settling back into a pace, but I can't imagine Abina's going to want to do that.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think she's gone, yeah, I've got the speed, yeah, I feel good, let's commit to it. Whether she went around that first buoy thinking, oh wow, like, I didn't expect to be this far in front. We don't really know what happened with the rest of the pack in terms of were they overly physical with each other, whether some people get caught up in the wrong positions. But now we see kind of like, wow,
Yeah.
okay, just taking in Lisa Powell and Genevieve Tadaducci have done really well to climb back onto Abina and kind of left the rest of the pack with like a sizable gap to have to deal with. We know Moesha Johnson's going to be embedded in there, probably somewhere near at the front. She's got a white hat on. Expect her to be aware of what's happening, but trusting in the fact that, probably hoping in the fact it will slow down. People might not know who is leading, is what I'm alluding to. So you might not know that it's Abina of Japan out in front. You might think it's Genevieve Tadaducci. We know Tadaducci likes to turn it off ever so slightly after the
scary
first
part.
lap.
That's
Yeah.
the scary part, right? Is I can't see this pace slowing down. So unless Tadaducci and Powell have the intention of holding this pace going into the second lap, this could be potential for Abina to try and even open the gap at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, and you know, play on that chaos, because if, for example, say Abina goes through the timing gate and through the feeding zone and doesn't feed, where does that leave everybody else? You don't have a choice at this point. You've looked up, you realise the pace hasn't dropped off, you're approaching your coach ready to get your feed, and you're just thinking, actually no, this could be detrimental to the race, I need to skip this. And you have to just like kind of storm through and put your head down and hope that once you catch up, the pace will drop off, or it will start to feel more comfortable because you've got that draft. So you're seeing the chaos that this is playing with the rest of the field. There's quite a few swimmers who are kind of starting to struggle with this pace,
Yeah.
dropping a little bit further back. It's hard to tell from this angle how far it is. We're not too far away from the finish. Not the finish, sorry, the timing gate at the moment, so we'll get some stats on that. But you see a German hat in fourth position, then a French hat in fifth. And I think it's going to be quite spicy going into this timing game to see if
Yeah.
Genevieve can get on the hip or potentially the shoulder of Abina.
Yeah, that's it doesn't look like she's been able to close that gap down even further. So unless she's able to in the next sort of 10 strokes get up onto her feet, she's not going to be within a shot of closing down this distance that Abina's worked so hard on. We'll see what the reaction is very shortly, including what the reaction is of Abina as she goes through that money lap stop. But potentially keep an eye on the rest of the field here. Ginevra Tadaducci is chasing with all her might. She wants to retain that crown of the sprint lap, the money lap, going the way of the Italian thus far this season. Lisa Powell's done a great job to hold on in third position, and you can just see the utter chaos that is caused behind it, almost in single file this early into a race. This is insane. Like, the men went through lap one in just a tick over 18 minutes, and we're about the same in the women's race. This is like sensational racing to start off our afternoon in Setubal.
Yeah, it is so quick, and like, as we were saying at the start, I was really expecting Tadaducci to take this out, to be that one up front, but I love how Avina said, hey guys, hang on a second, you need to know who I am, you need to know what I'm doing, you need to see this effort that I'm putting in, this is fantastic. And
Oh my
that
goodness.
gap behind fifth, or fourth, sorry, the gap between fourth and fifth is sizable.
So I think Alice has actually gone through lap one faster than the boys did, which is pretty crazy. Let me fact check that just quickly. There you go. There is the feed, so no skipping there. Lisa looks like she's going to miss it. Leah Boy sitting in fourth. She's very experienced on this course. Where is our hot contenders coming through? Oh, this is going to be interesting. Abina is not slowing down here, Alice. Moesha Johnson 16 seconds behind. This is going to be a big gap to chase down.
It is a big gap, yeah. You've got to hope that nobody loses too much contact. Oh, that's a big gap. Just looking at that, that's a big gap. That's a lot of work to do for the, yeah.
She looks like she's turned it off ever so slightly, Abina. Oh, it's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell.
Hard to tell, yeah. We'll have to see how things progress through this, especially like the first half of this next lap. But really exciting stuff from Abina to do that, to make the rest of the field to do that to the field of this caliber. Really impressive.
Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to tell with the close up on the technique there. I tell you, the entire field would be absolutely dreading this right now, coming out of that feeding pontoon, because usually at this point Tadaducci shuts it off ever so slightly, and you can see the reaction there from Moesha Johnson, knowing that it's not Tadaducci at the front. She is starting to move through the field and trying to assert herself, because the really interesting point for this race is if Moesha is able to bridge that gap by herself, that's the race over. That will be the end of the race if Moesha Johnson joins this lead group.
I mean, if I'm Moesha Johnson and I have that kind of speed and that training behind me, I'm rubbing my hands together thinking, hey, somebody else is doing the work for me. Brilliant. It's not a dangerous place for her to be in because of the caliber of racer she is, but she is answering this perfectly. She's definitely realized, or potentially her coach has told her who is leading and said, hey, red flag, by the way, there's something that's not normal going on up front. This isn't Tadaducci. You can't rely on her reliability of dropping off. You need to bridge this gap now, or else you'll be in danger. And she's answered that perfectly. You can already see her coming into frame here. I honestly think by the end of this lap, if not sooner, she'll definitely be back up into a comfortable fourth or fifth position, sat on this line. And I mean, if this gap keeps going, that will be potentially those places sewn up. But
Yeah.
then I think it's Mauritius' race to lose at that point. I'm like, it's just so, there aren't many swimmers that can bridge a gap like that, that what Apina put in, because she's still shifting, she's still moving, and
Oh, look
already
at
you can
that.
see Maurice. Yeah. And
Unfortunate
Maurice
for
has,
Moesha, she's brought the
yeah.
pack with her.
I was gonna say she's brought everyone with her. Yeah, everyone's answered to this call. So whether that's Mauritius speed, Abina dropping off a bit, it'll be a combination of the two. Um, I think we might see.
Oh, watch this turn,
Oh
watch this
wow!
turn. The current is well and truly pushing them across. You can see there has been a bit of a break. This is where some swimmers have been caught out in the past, not going around the turn can appropriately. And you just see, leading this race, Abina getting those cleaner turns has really been able to stretch out this lead. And it looks like there's the gap just ever so slightly opening up again, but it will be caught quickly. I tell you what, Alice, spare a thought for Brinkley Hansen. Her first
Oh,
open race on an international level, and it has been absolutely lightning through lap one.
especially in Setubal. Let's stress that as well. You know, I think the most difficult race on the circuit, technical, tactical, cold water, relatively salty as well as you in the sea. So yeah, definitely sparing thought for all of the juniors out there that this might be their first race in Setubal, might be their first senior race, and you have this chaos thrown in where all of a sudden everything. Look at that, it's just a straight line. This is the kind of racing I absolutely dreaded personally. Because my issue with straight line swimming is, so you're following the person in front of you, great. You look up, all of a sudden they have veered off to the left or the right to correct because they are following the person in front of them. Then all of a sudden you are not getting all of their lovely draft and all of those bubbles sat under you, and you have to swerve back over. So you have to sight much more as a swimmer behind in swimming like this as opposed to pack swimming.
Yeah, I think, the easiest way I've heard it described before is like sprinting with your eyes closed. So imagine
Yes!
going full all out running down the road and with your eyes closed, and the impact that has, not only just physically because you're working so hard, but emotionally, just so draining to be spending that effort and then be like, oh, I'm actually going further behind because I'm not swimming straight right now.
Yes. Yeah, honestly, you look up, it's so disheartening. You're putting in all that your effort. You're like, okay, put my head down. Let's get some good strong strokes in. Let's catch these feet. And you look up and you realize the feet have been 3 meters to the right of you for a good 5 seconds. And it doesn't sound like a lot of time. It doesn't sound like a lot of meters, but it really adds up, and it can extrapolate out so quickly to you losing those feet and losing touch with the lead pack. So it's really testing. It's very testing. We don't often see it in women's races. You've seen it a few times in the men's. Um, I think with the evolution of the men's race, it's much more pack swimming again now. It used to be like this when Florian kind of came in, dropped that bomb, and was all of a sudden like, this is how we're racing now. But the adaptation has came, but we haven't seen it like this early on in the women's.
Yeah, you are. You're right. It doesn't make much sense, and that's sort of why we can see this straight line swimming taking place with Abina still controlling the lead though out in front, and just confirming, Alice, and obviously there are environmental factors at play that don't lead to any 10-kilometer race being the same, but the women went through lap one in about 17 minutes 38 seconds. The men went through lap one through Sasha Belli in what was a pretty considerable fight through the final stages of that lap in 18 minutes and 10 seconds. To put it in perspective, lap number two, where Florian Wellbrock did most of the work, they were in 19 minutes through that lap. So that was a sensationally fast lap from Abina out in front of Japan, and you can see just how much the toll has taken on the rest of the field, with almost half a field being dropped in the opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, it's so difficult to compare across times, but the fact that it is faster than the men's is like crazy. It shows. I can't get over just that opening like 300 meters that Abina was able to do, where just that gap that opened up, and Tadaducci did so well at closing it down, but Abina's still taking out that money lap, getting that $1,000 for herself. Absolutely fantastic. And here we see Mauricia Johnson, the threat of her coming through on the shoulder of Lisa Powell. And like I said, I think she's going to be really happy that the pace is hot.
Yeah.
She's coping with it absolutely fine. And just kind of gliding up, taking these positions. And I think it's in a threatening position where she'll come round Abina. She could come round Abina and go, okay, thanks, I'll continue this momentum. Let's take it forward. Let's keep going. And I could really see her doing that. Oh, you think? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I think it is a Hungarian cap there. Bettina Fabian,
Bettina
it
Fabian.
is. Thanks
Okay,
for
cool.
coming through with that production. Obviously, Bettina Fabian, the swimmer moving through, as you said, Alice, gliding across the water, and
She looks fantastic.
yeah, I do want to, like, obviously, as an athlete, as an open water athlete especially, you can't really let the emotions of a race get to you too much. But I don't know about you, but when a race wasn't playing out the way that I had sort of imagined it to play out, say a swimmer like Abina had shot forward in the opening lap, I would actually get quite frustrated. And I can't imagine there's too much love from the girls out there in the field for Abina after she's made them work so hard in the opening stages.
Yeah, I mean, I think already we've had some information come through. It hasn't came up on the screens, but we have had a swimmer have a yellow card for pushing another swimmer under. So, yeah, there's definitely some frustration, some aggression being shown amongst the swimmers where you're kind of like, hey, this isn't what we expected. Like, but I think this is the fun thing about open water swimming. You have to expect the unexpected when you get in there. There's so many different conditions that you have to deal with. And like I said at the start, everybody's got their own race plan that they're trying to execute.
That's it. That's exactly what we've seen play out so far. There are a bunch of swimmers now coming together. You can see the pace has really come out of it in this second lap, as to be expected from such a hot opening lap. But one thing I did want to point out, Alice, is at the end of lap one, we saw a pretty considerable move from Mauricia Johnson to join the two groups back. But she has well and truly faded in this next straight. And I think that's quite tactical from Mauricia, just knowing that there's going to be more work to do now that the race is a bit more safe. And almost when you see that Monaco hat leading the way, there is an element of comfort that comes over the field, knowing that it's okay, we're back to where we normally are, and Lisa Powell's in control.
Yeah, definitely. It does feel much more like business as usual now. Still, we need to praise the effort from Ari Abina for really causing some chaos. I think there are probably a lot of heart rates higher than they wanted to be at the start of that race. There'll be a lot more energy spent than people were feeling comfortable to, but quite a few swimmers worked to bridge that gap. Bettina Fabian, Victoria from Hungary as well, and of course Lisa Powell and Genevieve Tadaducci sticking with Abina, not letting her have her own way and take this race into something quite different and unexpected. So yeah, I mean, they're all still really like pushing for it, wanting to take that lead, and they like Lisa also looks really good here.
Yeah, and I guess Lisa's a prime athlete of what we're talking about in the men's race. Is not all federations having the privilege to select from multiple athletes. Lisa is the dominant athlete representing Monaco in open water swimming. So what that enables through not having as tight of a selection process is Lisa knows that she can set her calendar to racing at the highest level. So that this year is, of course, the World Championships, and what we're seeing is really a considerable amount of momentum coming towards Singapore in the World Championships. And she had a good campaign last year into the Olympics. Unfortunately, just lacked a little bit of consistency after the Olympics, which is to be expected, but is building quite nicely ahead of the World Champs this year, and featured heavily in Doha to book her ticket to Paris. So this is a great result for Monaco, and Lisa Powell just sitting at the front of the race where she likes to be.
Yeah, Lisa's a very popular racer. and competitive, well, a popular athlete on the scene. I've seen that she does. I think she's into photography. She takes a lot of the pictures that I see on Instagram of the athletes, and it's just again, as it's just a indicator of such a nice community that the um, open water swimming community as a whole, but also the elite side specifically that we're speaking about, has. And yes, it is tough, it's fierce, it's competitive, but the energy and the vibes that you get at open water competitions are very different to pool competitions. I've been fortunate to experience both, and I honestly would pick the open water ones every day because there's a real sense of camaraderie. Teams are happy to help each other, and like we say with Lisa, she is I believe the only swimmer representing Monaco that I think I've ever seen. And what comes with that is relying on other nations as well. Like whether that's the French team or the German team, the Italian team, there will be friends that she's made along the way. And she did actually used to race for France and then has switched federations to Monaco. I imagine, honestly, to just give herself these opportunities to comfortably, like you said, she doesn't have to worry too much about selections and qualifications. We know the French team is a very, very difficult team to make, both for the men's and women's. So, absolutely fantastic that she's been able to take those opportunities and continue her development as such a great athlete.
Yeah, and sky's the limit for Lisa. She has shown glimpses to consistently sit on the podium. She does race a bit more forward than most of the women prefer to race, often sitting at the front of the race until the very end, and unfortunately at this stage of her career getting swum over the top of. But that being said, clearly swimming with intent and with a plan. So we'll be watching the development of her through this race and the season, of course, as the Monaco athletes continue to lead. Looking to second and third, it's good to see Abina and Tadaducci still sitting in there, and I think Bettina Fabian just behind. So quite a strong top four, and a very present top four to any breaks that might happen. One thing to note, as I said, with the safety of the athletes that lead the race, such as Lisa Powell, is there's almost a relative level of comfort that comes over the pack, knowing that there won't be any breaks made. That being said, and no disrespect to Lisa with that comment, I'm sure if she had a plan to break away from the field, she could give it a red hot crack. But as you saw in lap one, when there's an athlete that isn't normally in that position, the whole field goes into chaos, and that's where we talk about awareness of the race and using your head up, not just to see where you're going, but to see who's around you, because often your race can be dictated by those that are around you as much as it's dictated by yourself.
That's so true. It's such valuable information to know who is at the front, where are certain people. With the men's race, you've said many times that you can you can figure out where the race starts with Dario Verani. With the women's race, I would often argue it was Ana Marcela Cunha, potentially a little bit further back from where she was, but yeah, with someone with the stability and finesse as Lisa Powell up at front. You've got Tadaducci in behind her, again another very confident and experienced leader in terms of sitting at the front or sitting in second or third position. So we have got that stability come back into it now, and you're just seeing some waves come across them, and oh my gosh, doesn't look like much on the screen, but trust me, when you're swimming, each wave just feels like a tidal wave. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, please just let me find my stroke, let me swim.
Yeah. I mean, the camera never does it justice, and certainly not from the point of view where we are. Even if you're on a boat and you're out in the water and you see these little choppy waves coming across the field, you wouldn't understand necessarily how much that adds to the athletes. And often times in races you see athletes get quite frustrated with the drivers that are around them, and that's because the drivers mightn't understand exactly the impact that they're having when they put the accelerator down.
That's one thing I have to say. I think as the evolution of the sport has gone forward, we are seeing less of the lead boats kind of just suddenly cut across the front of the pack and
Yeah.
and do some craziness. So yes, that was definitely something that you know, quite often you just look up and see all of a sudden the lead boats like cut across the front of the pack, and I'm always like, guys, like, can you don't have to do it so quickly, or can you do it a bit slower, or leave us more leave more room, because all of a sudden you're just dealing with these waves, which I guess everybody has to deal with, but it's still very frustrating when you're just trying to do your thing and swim your 10K and be competitive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Some of the storylines that are important today: the defending champion from last year, Leah Boy, in action once more. And we talked in the men's race just about how important it is to be at the World Championships representing your federation, what that means not only for the individuals and the honours that come from that, but also for the momentum of the Olympic cycle that comes aside the World Championships. I guess, Alice, we saw Leah unfortunately have some disappointment at the highest levels last year, but she always managed to rally, especially in Setubal. She's been on an interesting ride so far this year, but good to see her mixing it up again, and she'll be a formidable force come the end of the race.
Oh, certainly. Leah Boy, I think she has been working so hard for so many years, and this is what I kind of want to say with any younger athletes or federations watching. You can't just be good at this overnight. This is a lot of time and a lot of effort, and so many years and so many races of experience of trials, setbacks, and just keep driving forward. And I think Leah Boy is a great example of that. You know, we saw her breakthrough swim in Setubal last year. Unfortunately, didn't swim at the Olympic Games. You know, as it's so competitive for the German team. But she had a great swim here, and then backed it up with, I believe, two more podiums after that,
Yeah,
in the following World Cups, and has
and
still been on
podiums
good.
at the Len Cups as well.
And Len Cups, this is another thing. I think taking all of those opportunities to race is so important and so valuable. You know, you can't look down on these opportunities to get international racing, regardless of where it may be, whether that's a Len Cup or I'm not sure if there's the equivalent in Asia or Oceania or America, but just those opportunities to race internationally in open water are so valuable. So it'd be really interesting to see what else she can put down today.
Yeah, and this is starting to turn into a race that really does suit Leah Boy, almost identical to the way the race played out last year. The current is similar to what it was last year. The chop's a little bit down. And just updating that, Alice, the girls have gone through the second lap 45 seconds faster than the men. So just reiterating the impact that the tide can have at this time of the day. The men swam against the current all day, and the women, sorry, currently swimming with the current. So, very impressive showing nonetheless as they come through the second lap. One thing I did want to note though, the men swam at 108 per 100 for that 10 kilometers against the current. That is pretty remarkable, but you know, the women are swimming faster than that at the moment, so clearly some speed in the ocean currently.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is the thing with Setubal. The current does like all sorts of different things throughout different stages of the race. I think there's going to be some parts where the current's not working in their favour, but it's very much working in their favour at the moment. But I just remember back to my time racing here, where you kind of had to remember, okay, the current's with me for the first half of the race, but it's working against me at the second half. And what's that going to do? How am I going to play around that? Certain buoys, all of a sudden, I now have to take a much wider arc to make sure I can get round it, and then kind of end up swimming at an 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock rather than a 12 o'clock angle. So there's so many different things that the swimmers will hopefully definitely have this information told to them by their coaches, by their federations, and use that information to execute well, because it's one of those things where, like we've said before, like, yes, you can want it, but if you don't have that information and that capabilities available to you, and somebody else does, you might pale in comparison, even if you wanted it just as much as them.
Well, that speaks to the tactics I guess, Alice, and something that we've talked about numerous times on broadcasts with World Aquatics is just the requirement to be tactical. But then we revisit the comments at the start of this race from yourself with just go for it and don't overthink. So I guess, like, from a swimmer's perspective, explaining it to a spectator, how do you act tactically but not overthink in a race like this?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so um, it's one of those things where, with the nature of the race, you you have to be switched on, basically, but at the same time, you can't get caught up in every single action and every single motion that you're doing. So, say for example, you have a bad turn, get over it. Bluntly, you need to get over it and keep moving forward. You can't dwell on the fact that you've had a bad turn. That's where I'm talking about the overthinking. You need to accept that something's happened and then say, what will I do better next time? And then try and execute on that and just keep trying. And this is where overthinking can be an issue for swimmers, where if you get too wrapped up in, oh, I didn't do that well, that didn't go well, and you might go down this negative train of thought, and all of a sudden you've been very distracted and things have changed drastically around you. So this is where the tactical awareness comes in and so important, but also just being able to keep moving forward and keep your sights forward, and then you can reflect on the race once you've got out.
That is that's the best way. That's the best way I've heard it described. And honestly, it's somewhat acting like, as if a goldfish. You know, you only ever thinking 10 seconds ahead. What's the next thing I have to do? What's the next thing I have to do? You chalk up your wins and losses, but ultimately, as you said, once a loss has happened, you just have to move forward. You don't want to give up your whole race. And I mean, we saw in the men's race in Ibiza, unfortunately, that happened to Hector Pardo, where he did receive a yellow card. He stopped to ask what the infringement was about, and then ultimately, because he stopped, fell off the pack and withdrew from the event. So it just goes to show, you know, often less is more in open water swimming, and I say that with all due respect to all the competitors, but sometimes the athletes that think they're less are the ones that are able to capitalize on the chaos that is an open water race.
Honestly, I've always thought that about sport across, as a whole. Um, Personally, I was one of those swimmers that overthought, got way too wrapped up in things, and I was always so jealous of the swimmers who could just get in. Okay, yeah, it's a 10K session, and what? And I've got an 8K
Yeah.
session this evening. Okay. I have always been so jealous of those swimmers. And whoever, if you're out there and watching or watching this back, if you're able to crack that mindset and that mentality of just getting in and dealing with what you've got in front of you and not overthinking it, it's really a valuable skill for an athlete to have. And it can really, really take you to some special places. I think a lot of the best swimmers that I've ever seen in the world have that mentality. And it's always just so cool to be around, to be honest, because I'm always like, how do you just like cope with that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always jealous of it.
I mean, most notably the likes of Ryan Lochte, you know, like an absolute
Yes.
goldfish that could just only absorb the challenge in front of him and sort of spoke to the success that he saw in his career. And I guess,
Yes.
yeah, I empathize with you as well. Like, just seeing some people that only ever thought about what was right in front of them was so incredibly frustrating because as swimmers, you're often encouraged to do more, be better, train harder, do more around the sport, be more diligent, eat better. All these external challenges that some of them are in your control, and then unfortunately, when you overthink things, especially in open water swimming, it can lead to your demise. So it is a very fine balance of trying to control what you can without being too worried about what you can't. And at the moment, you know, Lisa Powell's decided that what she can control is the front of the race, and she's sitting at the front. And at this stage, everyone's happy to let her sit there.
Yeah, it's very calm, respectable at the moment. Just you did hear a whistle. I'm sure it's for a little bit further back, but um, we're seeing a much more predictable race play out at the moment. You know, you've still got Bina sat up there in a comfortable position. You've got Leah Boy next to her. Um, and it just looks good. It looks comfortable. I'd be interested to know where the likes of Marisha Johnson are, sat a bit further back. So yeah, it's it's shaping up nicely. And, I think you can still see Bettina Fabian sat in there too, as well as Kachimoto, I believe, the other Japanese hat there too.
Yeah.
And as well, this is the thing: more Italian hats will keep popping up and popping up
Yeah.
as we take the camera further back. So still, I mean, everything's still very active.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, unfortunately, we have a couple strokes that we can pick just off sight, and Ginevra is certainly one of those athletes that you can pick her stroke from a mile away because she's so symbolic in the way that she swims. But outside of that, it's very hard to pick, especially the Italians. A lot of them have a similar swimming stroke, and all race so incredibly well. So apologies if we get names mixed up here and there, but we do know who's out in front. That's Lisa Powell and Ginevra Tadaducci. Put yourself in this race right now, Alice. Lap 1 was utter chaos. At the moment, they're still swimming very fast. The tide is about to turn, which is going to take the pace out of it. And I guess everyone has gone from being swimming in single file, where there would be an element of tension, to swimming in the pack, where that tension then gets brought back together. What are you doing at this point in the race, knowing that we're just a tick over 3/8 of the way done, but there's still plenty of swimming ahead of these athletes?
Yeah, this is where I'm saying don't get too comfortable. Don't think that you can suddenly switch off. The pace will still be on. They are still swimming at probably a minimum, if they were in the pool, 112. It will obviously be faster because they're working with the current here. But the point is the way like an aerobic athlete, an endurance athlete, the way an endurance athlete's body works is by kind of just being switched on all the time. These athletes are very used to, getting in, doing very long, very hard training sessions, fluctuating pace, going up and down and up and down. And whilst they're on a relative down at the moment, I say relative because it will get faster, but it's still very quick. This is the time where you need to stay concentrated, and you also just can't get too comfortable with this pace because it is going to change again, and you need to be ready to answer that call when it happens. You can't just think, oh no, I just want to sit at this pace a bit longer, and then let things drift away from you. You need to be ready to go again, basically. So at this point, you're kind of enjoying the fact that it has slowed down, probably for some of the swimmers, especially further back, thanking God that it is slowed down, but just being hyper aware that this is still on a knife's edge, and you still have some very fast swimmers at the front who could turn this on when they want to.
Well, especially a move towards that is Tadaducci taking the reins at the front of the race. Again, Tadaducci's not necessarily one of the athletes that we expect to make breaks in the field, but what she does do is sort of turn the screws in the pace that's being swum, and that can certainly have an impact further down the field, as it is currently now, just thinning out a little bit, but still sitting 3 across is certainly nothing to worry about at this stage. Alice, we've spoken about it throughout the broadcast, but Setubal has absolutely turned it on today, and what an incredible show that this iconic destination has put on. The 16th time racing here today. Back in 2007 was the first time in the World Cup. It is, as you said, a love-hate relationship for some athletes, but love for all the spectators, of course.
Yeah, it's just I love that we have a constant on the program. Just great consistency. So many swimmers across so many generations have swam at this venue, and the fact that it's basically been here as long as the event's been an Olympic event, and I think that's really fitting and really nice that we have had, everybody from Eva Ristov, the 2008, I believe it was 2008, or was it 2012? Apologies. She's an Olympic champion from Hungary. The fact that she would have raced at this race course all the way down to a new upcomer from Hungary in Victoria, it's just fantastic that it's a testing ground for open water swimmers at this level. How do you race at Setubal? What do you do? What kind of currents did you have to deal with? What was the tide doing when you raced? And um, it also forces the officials to be very tactical in how they place the swimmers in the water as well. Where, today we have kind of an unprecedented 4 hour gap between the men finishing and the women starting, and that's to play with the tides and to make sure that it's as comfortable as for the swimmers as it can be. So, just again, I love-hate relationship with Setubal. It's a really, really tough race as a swimmer, but at the same time, I've got so much respect for it, and I just love that it is the staple on our World Aquatic World Cup legs.
That's it. It's the open water swimming event that you can almost set your clock to, and often it's at a very tricky time of the year for some athletes as they finalise their preparations. As we've heard in the men's race, Coach Burns' squad, which in the women's race includes Celine Rita and Moesha Johnson, are coming at this race a day after arriving from altitude, and they leave tomorrow to head back up to altitude. So it certainly leads to some tough racing for those athletes, and that is consistent with what we've seen through its inception. But at the same time, as you know, Alice, very well, there are some athletes that have had almost the highest moments in this course and in this town. And the beautiful thing about racing in Portugal is the sort of weather that comes alongside it, this incredible coastal town, the food, the personalities, the sort of support that you get when you walk up the beach. This is an open water swimming town, and it has been for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think the pride in which Setubal takes in hosting this competition is just so beautiful. And you're right, it has been the I don't know if it was for the 2008, but definitely for I think 2012, 2016, 2020 has been the qualification race for the Olympic Games off the back of the World Championships. So just like historically has forced a lot of good efforts out of people, and kind of been for some athletes moments made, lifetimes made of being a swimmer, being able to qualify for the Olympic Games, but also for others, heartbreak. Sport is very brutal like that, and open water swimming is very typical of that brutality. Might only be one or two spaces available on your federation's roster, and you're just up for that, and you're competing for that, and hopefully you can make it through. So, yeah, I'm just always a fan of this course, and as we've been saying about the currents, it is so unique in the way that the currents and the tides move quite quickly, and things literally change mid-race. I think you can kind of get the sense now that the current is starting to take the pace out a little bit and changing the dynamic of it.
Yeah, and that will have an impact on the rest of the races. We expect to see some of those more traditional open water swimmers in the women's field move forward. Interesting to note, Moesha Johnson slipped back a little bit in that lap. I think she went through about 16th position, but it was actually only 6 seconds off the lead. So a improvement there in that second lap. Looks like we have Abina and almost Kajimoto as well on the inside of the course, really trying to put down a bit of a effort here. Can't imagine that they're going to get too far away as they come into this feeding pontoon. That's usually a good opportunity for the packs to bunch up, but we'll keep an eye on it regardless. But Tadaducci leading the way as expected. So after the chaos that ensued in lap one, we are almost back to normality. It's in fact Lisa Powell leading this breakaway group, but as you can see from this shot, it is still Tadaducci leading the way. And I guess, Alice, we spoke about just how chaotic it can be when you're swimming in single file and somewhat feeling like you're sprinting down the road with your eyes closed. What it means when we have these packs group up and then some swimmers pull off the side is usually just because they don't want to take the physicality that comes from swimming in the pack. but sometimes also they believe they have a better line. Am I missing any other times that they would do that?
No, I think you're spot on with both of those things. Yeah, I think it's one of those things of they probably think they have a better line, and it's just taking that opportunity to do like find that clear water, especially someone like Lisa Power who's like very comfortable leading. She's not afraid to not have someone in front of her. She doesn't feel like she needs that white water. So, if you feel like you're in that position and maybe you're sitting at the edge of the pack anyway and someone's annoying you, so just hop over, find your own water and enjoy that moment for yourself. I think all power to you, all power to swimmers for doing that. And they're going to be forced back together going around the turn buoy anyway.
That's it. This is the almighty equaler at the end of each lap. As you can see, Tadaducci leads Rita, Powell, Capone, and Kajimoto rounding out the top 5. As we mentioned, there's some big names sitting in between 10 and 20. We'll keep an eye on those. A big move there from Bettina Fabian and Victoria from Hungary moving into the top 8 now. Leah Boy sitting in comfortably, but really no massive moves between the top 10. And keep an eye on the names as they continue to roll through. Dyson of Great Britain having a great swim here, Alice, and 6.7 seconds off the lead. She is within striking range.
Yeah, Ella Dyson's been up and coming for 2 years, 2 or 3 years or so now. Getting some really good experience at the World Cup level. She's got some good 800 and 1500 times as well, and it's really fantastic to see her in here. Putting herself in positions like this, it's still like very packed up, very close, but sitting further up in that field, she's giving herself such great opportunities that if anything happens, she's going to be ready to answer that and hop on it and hopefully really put herself in a nice, comfortable and strong position going into the final few laps. We just saw, I believe, Marisha coming through in about 16th position, but only 10 seconds back. So as you can see, it's still such a heavy pack, and some of the names that were like further back into 10th place all the way down to 20th were still names that are really, really hot contenders for being in the top 10, if not on the podium.
Yeah, well, some of those names include Jeanette Spearworks and of course Angela Martinez, and Martinez is one of those athletes that absolutely stormed home in Ibiza. That last lap, almost she didn't expect to be at the front of the race. Just had some incredible turns and then didn't let anyone else go around her. I did, expect her to carry that momentum into the 3 kilometres, but I guess it speaks to just the magnitude of winning a home World Cup and that paired with your national championships as well, and the magnitude of all those events happening at the same time. As we speak about often, like there is an emotional toll that the athletes take on during the race, and sometimes that's actually harder to recover from than the physical toll after a race.
I was going to say the emotional toll of that is so challenging. You win. This could be anything. This could be the Olympic Games, and you've won a race, and then 3 days later you have to go back it up with a heat swim in the 400 IM or something, and you're kind of like, oh gosh, wow, I'm still. Well, of course you're still going to be processing a win from a few days ago, and this is where those consistent champions of, someone like a Michael Phelps or a Ryan Lochte, or more recently Summer McIntosh and Leon Marchand, this is where the mindset is just so interesting to me. Like the robustness and the kind of get up and do it again is just so cool. And in the case of Angela Martinez, she still made it into the final of the 3K knockout. I think she might have finished in 10th position in the final. Do forgive me if I've got that wrong, but still had a really, really great swim, but probably just that's the fatigue, and then having to get in and do like a 500 meter fast. And was it Leah Boy who was super quick at the front? Apologies, yeah. It was a German swimmer. It was Leah Boy, thank you. Leah Boy, who was so fast up front, I put in a crazy quick time of 5:18. over 500 meters there, and it was one of those things where she just opened the door and ran through it. So Angela Martinez had a really fantastic race in the 10K. Definitely one of those that we need to consistently keep watching. I'd love to see what else she can produce today, but yeah, just challenging physically and mentally to back that up the next day with a 3K knockout.
Yeah, and I guess we'll continue to see that develop as a sport. It was only the first time we'd had that double at the World Cup level, and you also, the relay is a great event, but a lot of these athletes can back up a relay because the relay toll doesn't seem to be as great given that it's only 1500 meters swimming, but also because you are swimming with your teammates. You manage to find an extra gear because you don't want to let the rest of the team down. So, yeah, absolutely no disrespect to Angela Martinez. To go out and enjoy what a victory costs, but sort of leads us into a good point today. Obviously, we do have some home heroes racing. Mafalda Rosa of Portugal probably leading the charge in that regard. But of course, the one thing that we need to note is with the 10 kilometers being so spread out today, we do have quite a quick turnaround for the women between today's 10 kilometer race and ahead of tomorrow's 3 kilometer knockout. So, Alice, these athletes currently swimming 6 p.m. local time. They'll be finished in about an hour. Then, of course, you have your normal procedures post-race, hopefully medal ceremony for some of them, maybe some drug testing for others, and then you have the rest of calming down after a race. What's the recovery process as we see this field spread out once more? What's the recovery process you're expecting for some of these athletes after the race finishes?
Yeah, I mean, this is where you're hoping that you can shift that caffeine out of your system as soon as possible. I imagine most swimmers have probably taken caffeine for this race, and um, just having to deal with that overnight, and maybe just accepting the fact that you're going to have like a lower quality of sleep. It's not going to be that detrimental to your race unless you really let it. Obviously, it's not ideal, but um, I've always found the problem with lack of sleep is when it's over a prolonged course rather than an acute. Okay, this is just one night of I might have 5 or 6 hours sleep. Let's just deal with that. So that's one thing that they have to be considerate of is having like good sleep hygiene tonight, where you get into bed and maybe like accept that you're gonna have to be on your phone for a little bit longer, but put that down, read a book, put on a podcast, try and let your body calm down as quickly as possible. Before all that, however, you this is difficult. Like, do you swim down? Do you get back in the water and swim down? Definitely want to do some kind of like removal of like lactate and fatigue from your system. It's one of those where they'll be finishing at 7 p.m. local time, getting out of the water at 7 p.m. and then moving over. It's just getting quite late, basically. It's getting quite late where you might not want to be in the water for another half an hour swimming down. So you need your food, you need your electrolytes, you want all of that energy to be put back in you. So you want to head to dinner, get that in you, and then and get to bed. But accept that you're going to feel tired tomorrow, accept that your sleep's not going to be great, and accept that your body's not going to be too fresh. But the case is everybody else is going through the same thing. And what I just want to draw this back to here is just so interesting. I mean, normally, do we see this often with the women's? Is this kind of massive separation of everyone being like, hey, I've got the best line, like I'm doing this. And you see Lisa Powell, the swimmer closest to us. I'm not too sure who she's leading. I think it might be Tadaducci, who she's leading there. And then a French hat behind that, which might be Caroline Juice or Delacroix. And oh, Lisa, it's hard to tell, but Lisa looks like she's pulling away a bit here.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see as they come towards it. They're probably only a minute or two away from this turning can. Oh, that is a massive difference. I'll be interested to know who's in which pack here because that could be very telling. As we said at the start of
Yeah.
the race, you wouldn't want to swim 110 meters against someone swimming 100 meters if you had the choice
This
for
is
it.
like
So
150.
yeah,
This is
that's
mad. That's like a that gap looks huge.
yeah, and obviously like with the current shot, probably a tad bigger than what we expect once you're on water level. But either way, like this will have an effect on these athletes, whether it's physical or mental, as we discussed. So um, keep your eyes peeled over the next couple of minutes as they approach that yellow can. But a big moment in the race currently. Lisa Powell is up to some mischief, it looks like, just choosing to swim to our own lines and not letting other people dictate where the race goes. I guess, Alice, in that race, like why would Lisa be making that decision? Why would she be choosing to try and separate herself from the field? We spoke about the potential of creating your own water, but really, it's often hard to know if you're making the right decision.
It is, you're right, and I have all this is where I've got so much respect for swimmers like Lisa who just really just are happy to swim to their own beat like that and um, get in, give it a try. And I really think one day this will just come off for her in the sense of she will really like burst onto that podium and she will crack this way of swimming it. And it honestly, it's going very well for her now. We're coming down to 2 laps left to go, and Lisa definitely had the better line here. I think this is I don't know who was in that second pack. I think I can see the yellow hat of Ella Dyson. So that's quite an easy one to just like pick out. But I don't know who else is in that pack, but that looks like it might be quite detrimental to the standings of the rest of the field. And it has definitely allowed, I don't know who the French swimmer is, but it's definitely allowed them to climb up much further because both of the French swimmers initially were sat in, I think about 8th to 12th position. So already like allowed her to like catapult her into third position. You've got Tadaducci who's always just so good at sitting in there, finding people's feet, staying in second place. She's like the queen of consistency.
Mm.
So it'd be fascinating to know where Marisha Johnson will be sat within this. She's in a white hat, but I don't know which white hat we think she will be.
Yeah. Anyone's guess is as good as ours at this point in the race. Especially on the far side of the course, we'll have to wait as they're about probably 6 to 8 minutes away from coming through that timing booth on the far side of this course. So at this stage, we do know Lisa Powell leads the way, but as you mentioned, Alice, there are some big names trailing behind, and that would have taken a toll when you were swimming in those positions and you've got all faith in the leader of your pack to be swimming on the best line. When you do come together and realize that you were actually in the wrong group, that really does hurt your soul. And I'm sure some of those athletes that are sort of sitting towards the back of this pack now will be feeling that, even though, is that Moesha?
I think it is. I think it's.
Yeah, it does look like Moesha's stroke, to be fair.
Do you know what that was like? It was like, do you kind of like Jaws when it was like,
Yeah.
dum, and then like when you're like, is that? And yeah, I think that's Moesha. I think
On cue.
yes, literally on cue. I'd be really interested to know where she was sat, if she was in that pack, if she was in Lisa's pack. But you're so right. So just going back to your point about the kind of the emotional toll of choosing the wrong pack, and sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you're on the far side of either side of the course and it's happenstance which one you end up in. It's happenstance that the person you're behind has actually taken a better line, and you really, like I said before, don't overthink it. Please don't beat yourself up if you've taken the wrong line. Like, there's only so much you can work with at that point, but you kind of need to put that to one side and go, okay, I'm further back than I was when this break and this separation happened. I need to sort this out now, and I don't have much time left to do it in either.
Yeah. You're so right, and often speaks to that awareness that we've talked about throughout the race, and why athletes, the only way to train it is through racing it, which is why we're such big fans of these athletes getting more experience on a world level or a European cup level, because it does. There's no better practice than racing. So we'll see how that comes to fruition through the back end of this race. But one thing I did want to note, Alice, is we've seen this story before. We have seen this before. We saw this in Hong Kong last year. We saw this in Neom, and then we saw it once more in Soma Bay this year. At this exact point in the race, Moesha Johnson moves forward, and then pretty much through the next turn, she opens a little bit of a gap. So that is Johnson sitting next to Jouis, now that that's been confirmed as the French swimmer in third position. Let's watch out for Lisa Powell. And you know who loves swimming with Moesha Johnson is Tadaduchi, currently sitting second.
Do you know what this is like? I see it. Do you know how like Thursday's the new Friday, for example? That phrase, Thursday's the new Friday. I realised that the fourth lap is the new. No, sorry, the fifth lap is the new sixth lap.
Yeah.
So you really need to have all of your ducks in order, to have a very British phrase, to have everything sorted out going into the fifth lap. You cannot rely on the last lap anymore. The last lap is kind of like, hey, whatever happens, happens. But on this fifth lap, you really need to make sure you're up there, because it's happening in the men's race too, where that's like where the chaos really starts to like cement itself. And with the women's race now, where with the likes of Moesha Johnson, when we get Sharon Van Rooyendaal back in, she will be playing to that as well. You really cannot take advantage of the last lap anymore. Everything kind of has to be happening from 3k out, even a little bit earlier. Anywhere between 4 and 3k out is where the action is really happening and where those places are being cemented.
Yeah, it's a sensational point. And as we continue to say, Alice, like this is a living, breathing race that continues to evolve. And as you've just, it's a great point. The fifth lap is the new sixth lap, and I think you speak about it specifically in the men's race. You basically, there is not much movement within the top 10 into that final lap. So essentially, if you're not in the top 10 going into the last lap, there's a little to slim chance that you will be come the end of the race. So interesting to know if it's similar in the women's race, specifically the way that we've seen it develop over the last couple of months, where Moesha's just been able to almost set the top three with a lap to go. So at this stage, the pace is certainly picked up. I wonder if they know that that's sort of what to be expected, or if there's going to be a reaction. Is that Moesha leading, in fact?
Oh my god, I think it's still Lisa. I think it's a black cat still, but I think Moesha is coming up on the left-hand side, still swimming next to Caroline's Reese, and I think she's really just biding her time. I'm curious to see if she decides to feed, and then kind of take it from there and see what else she can do. Like we said, this is the last sensible feed that you can take. I always think if you're feeding on the last lap, it's a desperation move. If you're feeding good to the last lap, it's a desperation move. I've been there before. You're kind of using anything to get you through the race. You're most likely not in the mix for the medals or top 10. So whatever you got to get through the race. But at the front of the race, we won't be seeing the women taking that feed. Just trying to. So we've got Lisa Powell up, Genevieve Tadaduchi, and then again, this like just on cue as we always expect, off to the north of your screen, Moesha Johnson, and I'm curious to know who's managed to find her feet. It's an Italian swimmer. I'm not sure which one. Apologies for that, but this threat from Moesha is looming.
We'll have to see exactly how it happens. And I guess to quote yourself, Alice, often with Moesha, it happens so quickly that we miss it. So let's keep an eye on Moesha at this stage. But yeah. I'm really impressed with how Lisa's continued to maintain this lead.
Yeah, Lisa is such a fantastic racer. Really, we're always putting it. Yeah, this is the move is happening, and it's really one of those things. Blinking, you'll miss it. And I know that's like so ironic to say with swimming, because especially for a 10K, everything's very drawn out. It's very deliberate. It's very tactical. But I think we saw a precursor of it in at the start of the race. As the first lap finished and the second lap started, where Moesha just really turned on so she could catch up that gap. and it just looks. It's the threat is there. The threat is very much there. It'll be interesting to see how Lisa reacts if she wants to give up the lead, if she accepts that once Moesha does get there, and I think Moesha will get there because she's just taking Genevieve now.
Yeah, how's Tadaducci moving across to Moesha? She knows what this means. To see the Australian cap charging through, that could potentially be the race. So I know Moesha wouldn't be stoked to see Tadaducci jump across and Lisa Power leading them through, but a big lap from Johnson. She's moved through from 16th. Oh, just collected the Italian speeding pole as well. That is the best of open water swimming. Moesha still hasn't fed as she comes through to the back end of this. Oh, there is the feed of Johnson. So a deliberate move from the Australian. She's put herself well and truly in contention for the back end of this race, and we'll see what the reaction is from the field. As we've mentioned, everyone has been waiting for this move, including Tadaducci, who is in absolute lockstep with Moesha at this stage.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, I'd love to hear the thought process of Tadaducci and then have it translated into English. But it'd be really interesting to know if she's happy to see Moesha, if it's like, oh gosh, it's happening now. Like, I think we all kind of predicted, or like, this is very typical of Moesha of when she likes to punch through. So perhaps Tadaduchi's like, okay, yeah, we're ready for this. Let's go. I'm taking your feet now. And it's the prime position to take her feet. You know, Moesha's kind of overtaken everybody else. Tadaduchi's obviously not just going to drop back and then go behind her. She's going to still battle it out for her own space.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be an interesting point here, Alice. I think, like, what Moesha would be hoping to do is to force Tadaducci to go the other way around Lisa Powell, but in fact she's actually just swum off the side and made Tadaducci make a decision. Is she going to swim on the straighter line, or is she going to try and chase the feet of the Australian? This is where it does get quite tactical, and as we said, acting almost as a goldfish to know which is the right decision to make, because the race could be over in a second, especially on this turn on this side of the course. This is where the swimmers are getting dragged inside of the course and then having to cut back very late to fight against that current and get around quickly. So we'll watch this unfold here, but at this stage, Moesha Johnson has been deliberate to make Tadaducci decide between Lisa and herself.
This is what I mean, blink and you'll miss it. We now have Moesha leading. Like, I think just about she's leading over Lisa Powell. And honestly, it happens in seconds. Do you see what I mean? The last time we had this shot, which was less than 30 seconds ago, we had Moesha Johnson just in front of Genevieve Tadaducci. And now she's got like a clear body length on Lisa Powell, who's in second place. I am in awe of how quickly she can change a race. It's so, I don't have words.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it does happen so fast. And even just then, we saw just how desperate. Once Ginevra was aware that Moesha was making a move, she was desperate to get across to her. And what that is a decisive decision from the Italian to know that the race is essentially transitioning. If you don't get onto Moesha's feet here, there is the possibility that she gets away, because there is a remarkable difference between Tadaducci's staying power and Lisa Powell's. Lisa cannot rate up as much as Ginevra can do, so often leads to her falling off the feet of an athlete like Moesha, and that's why Tadaducci is so good at sitting, is because her stroke rate is so high that it does really overcome a lot of the challenges that come from a change of speed. But where she does get caught out is that top end speed in a race. Oh, we just see the unfortunate the boat just drifting into some of our athletes there. But back to the lead of the race now, and as we can see, Moesha sitting with Tadaducci on her feet. And what the point of the race is going to be right now, Alice, I expect, is how many people can hold on to Ginevra's feet.
Yeah, absolutely. Ginevra is very often the link between Moesha and the rest of the field. So, you know, if you can stay on Ginevra's, and then whoever's behind her's feet, you've got a chance But I just can't get over how decisive Moesha is. It's like she just suddenly decides that this is happening and it's done. Like you, you can see it happening, but then it's happened. Does that make sense? Like it's coming, and then it's already done. And you just think, oh, okay, it's going to happen for a few more minutes, but then it's over.
Yeah.
It's just so impressive. I don't. It must be the burst of speed, the change of pace. I don't know what it is about her stroke that she's able to suddenly switch on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, ultimately, probably the answer is just a lot of hard work, right? Like,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
you know that probably there's, especially with Sharon not racing anymore, there's probably no one in the world that trains as hard as Moesha Johnson, and she has certainly reaped the rewards for it as of late, and would be all eyes on Singapore at this point, as we said, heading back up to altitude tomorrow to finish off that training block. And yeah, I guess we spoke about it in the men's race. I asked who do you think would be the first athlete to win 4 gold medals in the open water world championships, and I guess as the reigning world champions in the relay and the form that Moesha is carrying at the moment. Oh, I mean,
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
yeah, she hasn't.
This is the thing. Sorry, yeah, it's just it's so difficult. I think if you didn't have the relay aspect in there, I'd be very confident on Marisha with I think cleaning the 10, the 5 and the 3K knockout. I'm gonna say it. I think I'm gonna call it now. But I just think with the element of the relay and the threat that the German team poses, I think it will be that spanner in the works
Mm,
for a clean sweep. But I know Australia have a very strong team to field as well. Chelsea Gabeka had a fantastic race in Soma Bay. So I don't know who am I to say that it can't be Australia, but
mm,
I just think the threat from the Germans with Wellbrock, Clement, Gosei, and is it Spiwoks? I think it's
yeah.
Jeanette Spiwoks who is in as well. So, well, I don't know. I really don't
Yeah,
know.
it is. Yeah, who knows? It's so interesting because correct me if I'm wrong, Alice, but I don't think that there's ever been a defending champion in the relay. I think every world champs we've had a relay change over hands. So, with that in mind, it's going to be a tough call for Marisha Johnson. But to be fair, it's going to be a tough call for anyone to win all 4 medals, and potentially we won't see it for a while because there really isn't one dominant team in
No.
the relay.
I'm gonna say if Burnt could field his own like Burnt International, I think it would be that team. Let's be honest, it would be that team for the relay. But
Yeah.
because literally because Moesha is Australian, it causes like some oh who could it be? But if she was German, it would be like a closed door. It would be the German team.
Yeah.
So but you are so right. And that's what's so great about our sport. You know, the Italian team are going to be super strong. The Hungarian team are going to be super strong. I mean, there's you can predict the podium, but it's one of those things where you'll be like, there's another nation that you're like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, yeah, they could reasonably also be on the podium as well. So,
Yeah.
um, it just, and do you know what it is as well? Because we haven't seen a relay since Soma Bay, which was back in February. I'm sat here like, oh my gosh, yes, the relay. Like, of course, I've been so hyped about the 3K knockout. The relay is also going to be such a great bit of racing that it's always so tactical and so fun. So, yeah, it that is the kind of the difficult part of really getting those 4 medals. I think.
Yeah.
I say difficult part.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like for a
No, I know.
sounds so
I
silly
know.
when I said it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I did speak to Moesha about the prospect of potentially winning 4 gold medals at this year's World Championships, and she said, "I'm just focused on winning my first, so let's not
Oh,
get
fair play.
too
Yeah,
far ahead of ourselves." So, um, I think, I
as she
mean,
should
just
be.
wrapping out. So good to see Barbara Pozobon charging through the field
Yes.
to round out the top 4 there for Italy. But just rounding out our point on the relay, I think why it's so difficult to win is every time it's been raced at the World Championships, it's led to an evolution, and the most recent being with the Australians taking out the victory ahead of Italy. It came down to an absolute sprint between Atzarenza and Kyle Lee of Australia, with ultimately Kyle Lee showing that the time and effort spent on the finish craft was the separating factor between the two. And the way that the race played out, Moesha and Chelsea actually had a pretty sizable gap ahead of the field, because the Australians knew if they were to win the race, the Italians that is, they would have to swim around the Australians, and there's just no way that they were letting that happen. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the next evolution of that is. I don't think it's going to be what we've seen in the past, where it's just a straight out 6 kilometer sort of sprint. I think there will be a lot of tactics involved, and which country has the next playbook of evolution, I'm not sure, but I do like the way that it's been heading in terms of tactics. It's making it for really exciting racing.
Yeah, this is what I love about it as well, because it's about playing to your nation's individual strengths. So, for example, you've got a Carl Lee who's a great finisher. Why would you put him on the start? Like, respectfully, you're not going to put him on the start. You're going to put
Yeah.
him on the finish. You're going to place his strengths. You're going to put him in the positions which he thrives in. And you have swimmers like Florian Walbrock, like Moesha, Ginevra Tadaducci, who all have their unique strengths and moments of the race where they really shine in. And I think that's what's so exciting as an event. I'd love to see it in the Olympic program.
Yeah.
Absolutely love to see it in the Olympic program, because I think we'd start to get a lot more pool swimmers involved with it too, and that would be very interesting. But I just think for federations, for World Aquatics, for spectators, it's a really exciting place to play around with tactics and really hone in on all of the amazing skills that you pick up in the longer races like the 10 and the 5.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think you might have even uncovered what the potential strategy will be. We've seen almost a reliance on the order becoming girl, girl, boy, boy to take the relay win. Maybe, just maybe, the Germans flip that on its head. If any team could,
I think so.
it would be the Germans, right?
I think so. We saw that, just drawing on Ollie Clement and his speed in the 3K knockout. If he finds that clear water and opens that door, and you have Isabel Gose, who can really hold that pace, Jeanette Spearwalks, who is a very fast and capable swimmer, and then you finish that off with Florian Rolbrock. I mean, if you don't catch those two women and you have Florian getting in with clear water, then it's kind of game over. So
Yeah.
there's opportunity for the playbook to be ripped up here, and I think Singapore will be a fantastic place to watch it play out as well.
Yeah, you're right, and almost contrasts the way that the Aussies like to race. You know, that very strong surf style race that they have, and they like to be in and amongst the rest of the field and almost have a bit of a dogfight. So the Germans would flip it on its head and make it very tough for anyone else to win. But you know, that's the only way we're going to find out, is if we let it play out. And we're lucky to be just over a month away from that competition. As we look back, though, this is the lead field. Looks like Moesha has started to break down this lead group even further. Interesting to note that Victoria and a few other big names were sitting around that 16, 17, 18 mark, including, Angela Martinez. So we'll wonder where those athletes are sitting. Have they been broken through this stretch? And Moesha is continuing to single athletes out and stretch them through this single file. It's only a matter of time, Alice, I think, before there is a pretty significant break.
Yeah, it's like holding its breath. It's coming. I think Marisha's got in front. I think she's testing out what the pack is capable of, seeing if anyone's touching her feet often, seeing how, how she's feeling, basically. We know she's in hard training. We know she's just came down from altitude. She's going back up to it in a few days. Tomorrow, sorry. She won't be thinking about going back up to it tomorrow. She'll be very locked in on this race. But whether Tadaducci's touching her feet here, I'm not sure. I can't I'm just trying to judge if how much information Moesha has on how close behind everybody is. She does look back often enough to get that information, but I do think going round this top end buoy is where she'll really be able to turn it on. And I just want to shout out Ella Dyson real quick. She is doing so well here. She was a little bit further back. She was in that outside pack that kind of got separated out and then had to be brought back round. But she's just moved up into fifth position, and it's like we've been saying, as you go into the last lap, things don't change too often. As long as you don't die or someone comes steaming past you, you're in a very good position. And where better to be than stuck in there in fifth place or fourth place, following the feet of the likes of Marisha, Tadaducci, and I believe Caroline Juice in third position.
That's such a great point, and we'll get an update on who those athletes are very shortly as they come down for the final lap. As you mentioned, though, Alice, this lap often, or this feeding pontoon often is a give me pontoon. You very rarely see athletes stop to take in any final nutrition. So I guess at this point of the race, considering where we are with regards to the overall season, how would the athletes be feeling? Where mainly is the pain coming from?
Oh, this is an interesting one. There's all sorts of different ways that you can be feeling this. When I initially started out with it as a junior, after a 10K, my hip flexors would be shot. As I got older and I think probably started more robust gym work and got a better core, it really started to burn in like the shoulders and the scaps, and that like strength endurance is like can be the key point for a lot of these athletes. The likelihood is they're not going to get too tired from like out of breath in terms of the aerobic fitness. I think that will be very robust, but it's the strength endurance that can really start to drain on you, and just the fact that you're probably taking like 10,000 strokes, especially for the women, you're taking like 10,000 strokes in 2 hours. Do you know? That's a lot of swimming, like a lot
Yeah.
of swimming, and then on top of that, you don't get tumble turns. You're contending with other people in the water around you. It can be very physical. So yeah, I think that's typically where I would feel it. But what about yourself? How did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point in the race, it's almost all emotional pain. You just beating yourself up because it's such a, as you said, such a strenuous activity, such a foreign activity for someone to take on is 10,000 strokes in 2 hours. But honestly, the lats probably for me the worst. And then although your aerobic capacity is so good, just continuing to sit your heart rate above 180 for such an extended period of time, that's where the emotional pain really comes in. But that's why you work so hard at training.
Yeah, this is where a lot of work is done in training. Medals are won in training. As brutal as it can be, you have to turn up for the race, you have to execute everything, and but training is where a lot of everything just comes together. That confidence, that physical robustness, the mental robustness as well. It all comes down to you know consistent and challenging training.
Mm.
And Moesha's a great example of that. We know Ginevra Tauducci will also be doing some really, really tough training as well. I'd always typically see the Italian swimmers, especially the women, with their pull buoy in, with their paddles on, doing like back-to-back reps, super high stroke rate, and it's making my shoulders ache thinking about it now. So
Yeah.
all of that work is done, and you get into races and you execute, and you're able to reap those rewards.
Yeah, yeah, no, like have summarized it perfectly there. I guess one thing that I want to point out, Alice, is at this point in the race where we have Moesha leading, we're yet to see Moesha go to the front of the race and not win the race. So I guess we keep seeing this little tiny gap opening between Moesha and Tadaducci, and then it's being shut and open, shut and open. But ultimately, like, we've never seen Moesha get to this point in the race and lose. So I wonder how she's feeling, if she's confident. Obviously under an extreme amount of work currently, and that will be taking a toll on her and her performance. But there would be an element of confidence as she rolls through. And looking at that top five there, none of those athletes really have the firepower that's going to come over the top of Johnson, but plenty to be considered. Or she gets some advice there from her coach. I'd say that the first athlete that's going to be able to really fire a shot towards the win of Johnson is Leah Boyd, sitting back in 7th position, and then you go all the way back to 11th and 12th for those athletes that have that serious speed on that final stretch.
Yeah, I'd love to know what her coach said there, but yeah, you're so right. She's been very, she went to the front and hasn't like just been like, okay, let's open this up, let's turn it, let's go. So it'll be interesting to see if she does decide to do that. I think it's one of those where Tadaducci's hanging in there, doing like not hanging in there, so it makes it sound quite condescending, but really sticking in with her and not allowing this to just like her to walk away with it, as we know Tadaducci can do. But now here we see this line stringing out, and you can see that kind of battle for fifth, sixth, fourth, fifth, and sixth place happening, and this is where it's going to end up similar to the first lap where Abina was really dragging it out. I think Moesha's just going to kind of take what Abina's done and but win with it and finish the race and win with it.
Yeah, we'll see how it. At the same point as I said, these athletes. We've never seen Moesha in this position and then lose the race. I've never seen Moesha this far into a race with a full pack sitting behind her. So. I'm not quite sure what it's going to mean. I know that the athletes that are going to be charging through the back end of this race have a lot of work ahead of them. They have to go around a lot of bodies. It's not like what we saw in the men's race where it was 7 across at this point in the race. They have to move through about 25 meters on Moesha. There's time to do it, but the time is running out. But also, Alice, just wanted to double back on Moesha and the year that she's had since Paris, but also including the silver medal in Paris. But Moesha also just tonight was named in the Australian pool team for the 800 and 1500 meter freestyle. The first time Moesha's ever been named in the 800 meter freestyle at World Champs. So she is in career best form and making that team in the pool. You know, she's sitting alongside Lani Pallister, who just broke the Commonwealth record in the 1500 meter freestyle. So that is a seriously good distance freestyle ranking.
Yeah, I mean, the Australian pool team, the open water team has always been of a high caliber, but the pool team is just like, you know, it's they rival the Americans, right? At the Olympic Games, you have the Australian and the Americans, like very heat competition, like who's going to come best over on the medals table. So the fact that we have swimmers like Claire Weinstein, like Moesha Johnson, having the caliber of pool racing underneath their belts and able to do this is just so like scary for the field. And we're sat here watching this. I mean, do you know what Moesha's 800 and 1500 time? Sorry, well, I'm really testing you there. Like, I'm just curious.
I know her PB in the 15, I think it's 15:57, but she swam 16:02 to qualify, and then similar in the 800, she actually swam a PB weeks before the Australian trials at the Stockholm Open, where Coach Burns' squad just absolutely dominated that meet. And I think she's about the 18:32. But again, all of these times, because of the way that Moesha structures her program, have been unrested. So I'm sure she's very much looking forward to getting to Singapore, getting some rest, racing strongly in open water, and then hopefully carrying that momentum across to the pool.
Yeah, I'm just sat here thinking, okay, she has the 10, the 5, the 3K knockout, the relay, an 800 heat, an 800 final, assuming I'm confident she'd make the final, 800 final, 1500 heat, 1500 final. I think it'll be between her, Brzozowski, Wellbrock, and Isabel Gose. We're talking about the most meters ever raced at a World Championships with the new structure in terms of the open water structure. Because of course you had the 25k before, which of course if you race the 25k you're doing a heap of meters. But yeah, that is a heavy program, a heavy program. She's so well trained to cope with it. I'm not doubting it for a second, but I am sat here thinking I am very happy it's not me. It's so tough. It's so difficult. It's so impressive. I'm in awe. I'm really in awe.
Well, I mean, it speaks to a point that you're massive on with swimming, Alice. And honestly, Moesha's been swimming so well the last couple of years, and through that period, she's been so happy, enjoying her swimming, and making some relatively
Yes.
massive life sacrifices to chase this dream, but just absolutely thriving through it. Even this morning before the race, really excited about what today held in store. And you're talking about an in-season 10 kilometres in arguably the toughest conditions the World Cup circuit holds. So to have that outlook on a race, it speaks multitudes as to who the athlete is, but also how the success has come about.
Yeah, that's such a good point. She's always so happy to be there. And like, of course, all of these swimmers are, but I think I'm just stressing the point of the amount of racing that she's doing to emotionally and physically is so demanding. And she's going to do it all with a smile on her face. And she'll take it all as she comes. And this is the thing. It's about being happy in the sport. And for some swimmers, being happy means that they can be happy and cope with the training that Marisha does. For some swimmers, they can't do that. And I think it's about understanding where your limits are and pushing those limits when you can. But to see Marisha, move country, move continent, move like halfway across the world to further her swimming, become Olympic silver medalist, and still like come back this season, bounce back, and I'm confident she's going to take home the series crown because she is part of the athletes experience program newly introduced this season from World Aquatics, where a selected number of athletes are paid for by World Aquatics to go to the World Cups, and as a result of that, they have to attend all of the World Cups besides one. And we have seen Marisha not go to Ibiza, so she's looking comfortable, confident here. She won Soma Bay. If she wins here, she's going to catapult herself back up to the top of the rankings, I believe. And
Yeah.
after that goal for Aranchi, let's see.
It's gonna be tough because Angela Martinez had a good swim in Egypt and
She
then
did.
was strong again in Ibiza, obviously taking the win there. And she is somewhere in this pack. So I mean, that's the point, Alice. It's so good to see the competition for those series points, especially at this stage. Golf for Aranchi, the final stop on the World Cup circuit, so it could lead to a very spicy competition. At the moment, a big move from Bettina Fabian to get herself up into fourth position, battling with Caroline Juice. That's been the only major movement towards the front of this group. We know that Johnson isn't going to let up all the way to the finish, the same as Tadaducci. She's locked in that stroke rate. I think almost virtually the same point of the men's race. You asked me who I thought was going to take the victory, and I guess returning favour here, Alice. The money's favourite would be Moesha Johnson, but there is certainly a late charge coming from the back of the field.
Yeah, as always with open water, it's so hard to predict. Just judging from the history of Marisha, I've never seen anyone swim past her on the back end of a race. I do apologise, I cannot remember the way in which the Paris Games finished. So of course you had Sharon winning, Marisha in second, and Tadaducci in third.
Yeah.
And I do apologise, I cannot remember how that finished, but
Well,
as I've been commentating, I've never seen anyone swim past Marisha.
yeah,
Like
it was Sharon that went past Moesha with probably 200 meters, 150 meters to swim, but they trained together. They knew. I mean, you could
Yes.
watch. I was watching the race and I could see it playing out in front of my eyes. Sharon knew exactly when and where. After Moesha had done
That
all the
moment.
work for about 8Ks of that race, I mean that's brutal racing, but ultimately, like, it is racing at the end of the day.
Yes, this is the thing, and they train together. I know they're very good friends, and it's one of those things where it would have been like, let's get in. I mean, what a fantastic result! You could that's the ideal result, is you and your friend finishing first and second on the podium. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, crazy.
I'm just getting chills thinking about it. It's
Yeah.
such a cool moment for yourself. And yes, you want to be the one finishing first, but I think Marisha also just being new to the sport, you know, going up against like a titan that is Sharon Van Rondow, and then Marisha being relatively new to the sport, getting in and, you know, forcing a reaction from Sharon like that, where she was like, I really need to find these 200 meters and go. And of course she did. But um, yeah, my point is with Marisha, whenever, as long as I've been commentating for this season and last season, I haven't seen anyone swim past her at this point in a race. So I kind of love my statistics. I love the reliability of certain things in a race. You know, you'll have Tadaducci at the front, you'll have Marc Antoine finishing in the top five, and I don't think you'll have anybody swimming past Marisha.
Well, I mean, yeah, certainly it's going to be a tall task because if you look at this field, probably over a flat out 600 meters, there's no one faster than Moesha Johnson currently in the race. So here we are, where she actually has a bit of a lead on the rest of the field, and we're asking someone to swim the fastest 600 meters. So I mean, it's not impossible, as we've said time and time out throughout today's broadcast. Moesha Johnson is under a fair bit of work, as is a lot of the field. Um, and it's going to take an almighty effort to come over the top to claim victory away from the Australian. We've just had a bit of an update. Unfortunately, the hometown hero in Mafalda Rosa has withdrawn from the race, so hopefully we see her racing tomorrow in the 3 kilometre knockout, and the withdrawal reason isn't too significant. As we go back though, it is Moesha Johnson that's led around that second last turn can in first place. Still is Tadaducci sitting second and Juiz in third. Juiz won this race 2 years ago and is very fond of racing here in Setubal, so potentially that experience is going to come in play. And really what we're looking for here, Alice, is those athletes moving onto the feet and then alongside the hip, which is exactly what Juiz is trying to do to Tadaducci. But I guess speak to us about the impact that has not only on the swimmer moving forward, but potentially the athlete holding position. And you know, if you're Johnson, you really want people to be swimming against Tadaducci this far into the race.
Yeah, this is where it gets a bit difficult because, so say you're the swimmer behind Caroline's Reese and you're looking up and you're seeing Caroline like trying to make that move, trying like opening a gap, you know, not just taking the feet anymore, trying to get round. You're like, oh my gosh, no, please. Like, it forces you to have to change what you're doing, and you're already swimming at max effort at this point, and you then have to think tactically around: do I follow her? Do I try to get in between the gap that she has now opened up because she's moved around the side of Tadaducci? So there's a number of options available to you and very little time to work with. We're dealing with maybe 10 more minutes of racing left at the most, and it's not a lot of time for you to react. So I don't know if it's been able to pay off for her. I just think the pace that Marisha's putting in and that Tadaducci is able to maintain with her is so challenging that the moment you kind of move off of someone's feet, you realise you can't, you potentially can't match that pace. So it'll be interesting to see when they come round this buoy, has Reese fell back in line behind Tadaducci, or is she still trying to carve out that space for herself?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's a great depiction of what exactly is happening at the moment, Alice, and we'll see how that plays out very shortly. I guess one thing that we have to note as well, as we mentioned, Angela Martinez, currently the series leader, sitting in second is Ginevra Tadaducci, of course. So for Johnson, she would be hoping to get Tadaducci off her feet, and as we've talked about, the way that Ginevra likes to race is that very high stroke rate. And as I said, that doesn't translate well into an all-out sprint. But I'm sure at this point in the race, Johnson isn't hoping for an all-out sprint. She wants to just grind it to the finish line. And with 600 meters left to swim, that's exactly how it looks like it's going to play out.
Yeah, this is much more typical of women's racing that we're used to seeing over the past number of years, to be honest. Soma Bay was definitely an anomaly that we have seen in women's racing before, where Moesha just opened up this gap that Chelsea Rebecca and Tadaducci were able to cope with, and just this lead just extrapolated and grew and it grew. And he had Isabel Gose finishing in 4th position behind that. But I think, well, I might be dramatic in saying it was like 2 minutes back. I remember it being a gap that large, but I don't know if I've just like over-egged it in my mind. But anyway, we're seeing it. It was 2 minutes. Yeah, it was. Just take that into account for a second. A 2-minute gap in open water swimming is monumental, and today we haven't seen such a case from Moesha. She has taken that lead at the new last lap in lap 5 and allowed it to settle, allowed it to simmer, and I think this is probably an indication of the fact that she's in very, very hard training and doesn't feel the need or doesn't want to, or maybe can't potentially open up that gap in the way that we saw happen in Soma Bay. So I think it's going to be so hard for someone to come around her. I think she's really dominating this space, and I'm going to call it. I think we're looking at the top 3 here. I'm going to say
it looks like the top 3 is actually separated, with Johnson with a bit of a gap to Tadaducci, and then Juiz locking in 3rd just off camera. We saw that from that headshot coming into this finish arch, down this final straight, sorry. So as you can see there, it's very hard to see when they're all swimming in line, but it looks like if you go back, 3rd or 4th, there is a gap after 3rd or 4th. So if we get a wider shot here, this is going to be the medals, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. In which order is to be determined, but almost sewn away at this point is Moesha Johnson with another World Cup victory. We'll see how it plays out, but I guess, Alice, it continues this momentum that Johnson has carried through since the Olympics. Somewhat, certainly not a surprise to those that have tracked Johnson that she was in the medals in Paris, but somewhat of a surprise for those fans around the world to see her really charge through. Actually, just confirming that it is the 3 athletes, with that is Juiz sitting in 3rd for France. But since Paris, there has been one swimmer in both the men's and the women's that has been oh so dominant in every time she's gone into the water. It's almost been the victory. The one exception being Setubal last year, where she'd only been back in the water for 4 weeks, and that is a stretch that is pretty much unmatched in open water, and deserves the respect that it's getting.
Yeah, it's really like a new wave, and I've said many a time before, we saw Florian come in and change the way the men's race is done, and I really think we're seeing Moesha force that same change and that same evolution with the women's race. I'd love to see Sharon insert herself back into this next season and see what that means, especially if she stays in the same training group with Bern and Mauritius there as well. It'll be really interesting to see what dynamics start to play out in the race. But I mean, for the meantime, for today, definitely for Soma Bay, I think this is the Mauritius show. I think it's so early to call it. I know there's still like 300 meters of racing to go, but she's just such a strong and dominant swimmer. And Tadaducci has really stuck in there, but in terms of, like we said, the way that she swims, just forcing that change of pace would be really something. And I think if Tadaducci did find that speed and get round her, get on Mauritius' shoulder, I just think Mauritia would answer. I think she would have something in her, whether she knows it or not at the moment, that she would be able to just put down another little spurt and secure that gold medal.
So no matter the conditions, it has been consistent. Moesha Johnson in the newly termed and newly dubbed the final lap of the race. Moesha Johnson is going to swim away for gold once more. There's been one consistency since the Paris Olympics, and that is Australia on top in the women's 10 kilometers. Moesha Johnson has gone from strength to strength, taken all the challenges that Setubal has put in front of her, and she is going to be crowned the champion once more as she stops the clock in dominant fashion, and she is ready for Singapore with that victory. Ginevra Tadaducci gets silver. Caroline Juiz continues her fine form. in third position, and that is the top three rounding out Setubal. As you can see, this current just pushing these athletes through the finish arch. What a moment, what a memory, and what an iconic course it is. The Australian on top for the first time in this location in 1:53.39. Alice, that is absolutely lightning.
Yeah, what a fantastic race from her. Bided her time so well. Found that opportunity to execute on that fifth lap and just sat in front and held it from there and didn't allow anyone to get past her, didn't allow anybody a look in, and tied up the race with expertise. And we see her tomorrow in the 3K knockout as well. So you can see like she's moving very quickly, looking to get these transponders off, looking to get dry. Sorry, I just
taking off the volunteers. That's crazy. No, this is what we're talking about, Alice. Moving with intent.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because I've been there in those situations, and I think it's because, in defence of the volunteer, it's because the tape was on her skin, and he's not going to want to fiddle with getting the scissors underneath the tape in between her skin. You're much better off leaving the athlete to deal with that themselves, or Coach Byrne in this case, someone you trust to do that. Because if the volunteer, for example, accidentally nicks her or cuts her slightly, it's just something that you would rather not have someone liable for.
yeah. And I mean, speaking to that, and we speak often about Coach Byrne, but he continues his form of getting athletes on the podium at these World Cup stops, and today bronze in the men's and gold in the women's, like sensational.
Yeah, apart from the men's in Ibiza, I think he's got someone on every podium, on the men's and the women's podium in all of the World Cups so far. Yes, he has. Incredible. Just like, what is that in terms of the consistency and the strength of that? And just big shout out to Caroline Juice as well. A fantastic race for her, great result. And also Victoria from Hungary. Apologies, we are not great at pronouncing her last name, so we have been calling her Victoria, but European champion. Fantastic race here again, backing that up, and I'm so excited to see what is in store for her future.
Well, how crazy. That is her third ever open water race, and she's gone top 10 in Ibiza, to European champion, to fourth in Setubal, and fourth behind arguably three of the most experienced athletes in the women's field. Like, that is massive. What a way to make a debut.
Yeah, wow, what a season. How exciting. And it's one for Bettina Fabian as well, where I'm like, Bettina Fabian was like, is, apologies, such a competitive, strong athlete. She's been coming up for a number of years. Her name's been constantly there, getting onto podiums in that top 5, in that top 10. And then you have Victoria kind of like spurt her through, and it's so exciting for the Hungarian team in terms of the relay. You know, they were so dominant at the European Championships as well, with the likes of Rozovsky back on form and Bethlehem as well. So what a strong team is my point. And you can see some of the swimmers getting out, trying to get warm. It's a tough race. It's a really tough race. You know, people get out and they're all smiling and they're happy, but trust me, the fatigue is simmering in there.
Yeah. No, it's often overlooked as this is a marathon distance. This is the same as racing 42 kilometers on the road, and often overlooked because of how happy the athletes are when they finish. But I believe this Brinkley Hansen coming across to finish off her debut race. Yeah. What a massive effort for the young American, you know, recently crowned US champion over the 10-kilometer distance, ahead of Claire Weinstein and Mariah Denigan. A very strong US team once again. So what a moment for her to complete this 10K. I'm sure she'll take a lot of lessons out of it. But to your point, Alice, about the toll that it takes on the athletes, as we saw after the Moesha finish, she was up and almost running up the deck to get out and start her recovery process. But you saw as soon as it slowed down, she actually had to sit down because of the pain that she's under. And that, I mean, that's no surprise. She's been operating for almost 2 hours at almost max heart rate.
Yeah, this is the thing, that adrenaline of finishing a 10K is always like, even if you've won a race or if you've just managed to finish, it's always like a relief finishing a 10K because it's such a challenge. So you kind of let that adrenaline carry you up, and then you're trying to fiddle these transponders off, you're out of breath, and you everything kind of hits you at once, and you're kind of like, oh, I just did that. Okay, I need to take a moment, especially with the likes of Mauricia Johnson with coming down from altitude. And as we've been saying throughout the race with the women's, you've got quite a short turnaround. So, you kind of need to get out the water, get dry, start your preparation for the next day, essentially. I don't know whether that includes a swim down. I really would love to know if there are athletes going to be swimming down. I don't know if they'll have time with the race course, but getting to see some highlights now too, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we get to watch back the women's 10K. What a show it was. We see Mauricia Johnson just so confident walking out, and you get to carry that swagger around when you haven't lost a World Cup since this time last year. That is the fact of the position that we're in now. Is the last time Mauricia didn't win a World Cup was in Setubal last year, and the only athlete to win one since was in Ibiza, where Mauricia wasn't racing. So pretty big magnitude of what we're watching at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've been saying, a new generation, and what's exciting is the older generation. I wouldn't say old because they're the same ages, but the people that we have seen there like year on year are still in there. No one's retiring. There's only new names coming up, like Victoria, for example, a fantastic talent that I think will be a dark horse. Is really unfair to say, being European champion, but I think at Singapore she could cause some upsets in terms of who we traditionally or would expect to see on the podium. So just so many exciting people to watch out for. And again, a big shout to Ibina of Japan. Took out that money lap. I didn't pick up where she finished on the results, but $1,000 for her under her belt, absolutely fantastic. And just, I can't really get over what she did to the field here in terms of the destruction that she caused on the first lap. It was really, really strong.
And I'm sure she would have taken a lot out of that race. I think we just saw her finish as we went to highlights. So I think that early pace certainly did take a toll on Abina, but I'm sure she'll be backfiring as we move from Setubal to Singapore. But just reviewing the race here, once Mauricia hit the lead, there was no changing the course of the race. The champion that is the Australian once again on top, ahead of Tadaducci, and that is starting to become quite a formidable pair. Alice Johnson ahead of Tadaducci. In fact, Tadaducci is going to be leading our point tally after today.
Oh my god, that is exciting. That sets up so much fun for Golfo Ranchi, because that puts Mauricia in a position where, to win it overall, she has to beat Tadaducci, and then potentially, depending on what the gap is, needs Tadaducci not to finish in second.
Yeah.
Which, from what we've seen, is very challenging. You have Mauricia in first, but then Tadaducci is in second. She's consistently up there. Oh, how exciting. I love that.
Yeah, it's honestly what Mauricia is going to have to hope for, and is a sprint finish, and just taking her chances on that sprint finish away from Ginevra, because that is not her strength whatsoever. So it's all ahead of us, Alice, as well. That's
Yes,
the beauty of
that's
it.
coming in
Golfo
October.
Ranchi, yeah, such an incredible venue as well.
Stunning, absolutely stunning. And then we got the World Championships, and so many races at the World Championships. We're going to be absolutely spoiled. It's the first time that me and Will will be able to commentate together on site, which I am so genuinely excited for. I'm really grateful to World Aquatics to giving us this opportunity. It's really, really going to be such great racing, and everybody put it in your calendars, get ready for it. it is in Singapore, so the time zones might be tricky for my European friends, but um, wake up, set your alarms. It's all going to be worth it.
Yeah, 100%. Can't spruik that enough, and hopefully there's enough faith in the way that the open water scene has developed over the last couple of years that it is must see TV. If not, just tune in anyway because we'll be sure to put on a good show on behalf of the athletes. So with that in mind, we're moments away from conducting the medal presentation for the women's 10 kilometers. So be sure to stick around. We will, of course, be covering all the action until then, and of course, host where we will hear from the athletes. But for now, just stay tuned as we get to watch our final athletes cross the line. So just moments away from the medal presentation of the women's 10 kilometers, as well as the presentation for the sprint lap and the junior and overall points leader this far into the series. Of course, this being stop 3 here in Setubal, Portugal. One stop to go at this stage in Golfo Aranci, just moments away from the medal presentation here, but we are looking forward to Golfo Aranci later in the year. Alice, as we look back on today, there's just plenty to unpack, but I guess Moesha Johnson really stood out once more. She would have to be the favourite going into Singapore, right? We can't, at this point, can't see anyone beating her in the 10 kilometres.
Yeah, I have to agree. And this is, of course, as we always say, no discredit to the rest of the field, but she's just so dominant, so strong. Um, and we've seen her race in a multitude of different guises where Soma Bay, she's able to go out, take it out, and have this really dominant 2 minute lead over the rest of the field with Tadaducci and Gabeka holding on to that and not letting her completely run away with it, but still to break apart a field like that is so impressive. And then today, where there was just a slow burnout where she got in front and stayed in front and didn't let anybody past her. And I I would back her also in a sprint finish as well. So yeah, I struggle to see. She's definitely the one to beat. I think she's the one to beat. She's the one that everybody should be watching. And when Moesha starts to make that move, you need to have your game plan ready of how you're going to combat that.
And then as we get ready for the medal presentations for the series, Alice, a very much a harder question. If Moesha doesn't win, who is winning?
I really think we're going to see something special from Victoria of Hungary. She beat Tadaducci at the European Championships. Tadaducci finished in second, and I unfortunately haven't been able to watch that race, so it'd just be interesting to know how it played out. I expect something special from her, and of course Caroline Joyce Tadaducci. We'll have Ana Marcela Cunha in that mix as well. There's so many fantastic swimmers that. This isn't like an easy win for Moesha. Not by any stretch of the imagination. There's still so many amazing athletes for her to beat.
That's it. Yeah, it is certainly probably the strongest it's ever been at the moment. The both the men's and the women's field in the 10 kilometers specifically. As we go to the medals now, this is our junior leader from Finland, Luna, and she's been on top since the start. What a year she's had so far.
Yeah, it's again, as we see countries investing in their athletes, giving them these opportunities to, firstly get recognition, but then also have the experience of racing at this level, getting to stand on the top of the podium. It's moments that you'll remember as a junior that are really special. And here we see Abina from Japan getting her credit where it's due for such a fantastic and exciting first lap. She really treated us to something, and I know it faded away a bit towards the end, but so great to see her happy and smiling. That cap looks adorable on her. I love that. And it's so great that she gets to walk away with $1,000 as well. How well deserved for both of these athletes.
Yeah, that's so cool, and such an awesome moment to be up on top of the podium. It certainly doesn't happen every day, so I'm sure as we talk about those dark winter months of training made also easier when you get to stand on top of a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the it's one of those things where the training from November to February, where you're in those moments and you finally get these opportunities to go to venues like Setubal in the height of summer and race and experience it and come away with something tangible is really special.
So here we go into the medal presentation. Caroline Juis of France, fresh off a triple crown in her home national championships and continuing that fine form here.
Yes, certainly. She's a very well-seasoned racer, the kind of senior woman on the French team. And France coming away with 3 medals today. So impressive. 1 medal of each colour as well, which is very, very cool for them. And again, I just keep talking, hyping up the German team and the Australian team, but looking forward to the World Championships and the relay. They'll be one to watch too, as well as the Italians with Tadaducci and the multitude of men that they could field as well.
That's it. And on top of the podium today, as we've discussed, Moesha Johnson of Australia, so confident, so happy, and so secure in that position on top of the podium. Almost, we speak about those federations like Brazil, like Japan, like Finland, now starting to invest in their junior athletes to come through Not too long ago, it was the same position for Australia, really trying to invest in the World Cups to get their athletes more experience. And now it's almost become a bit of a privilege, or a sort of a privilege that we're used to um, with the national anthem. It looks like they've handed the leader cap to Moesha. I think that's
I
actually
was
meant to go. Yeah, there we go.
I yeah. Oh, good on them. Yeah, respected. Yeah. But yeah, you're so right about Australia. Um, in terms of the effort and money, time, everything that they've put into it. I know it's a very long way for them to come for the European World Cups, but great that they're doing it. And look at the experience and the meteoric rise we've seen from Marisha Johnson.
And once more, we get to hear the Australian national anthem coinciding with the gold medal to Johnson. And I'm sure another proud moment for Moesha. What a day here in Setubal. Two brilliant 10-kilometre races and two different ways to win them. Marc-Antoine Olivier with patience and precision in the men's race, and Moesha Johnson going all in and never letting go. We will hear from our athletes very shortly, I believe, as they get their final photos. But Alice, as we get ready for this medal presentation, what is the one moment that stuck with you today?
Um, I am really excited by Ebina from Japan. I really think that was really special what she did at the start. Taking that money lap away from Ginevra Tadaducci is no easy feat
Yeah.
at all. And also Lisa Powell as well. Both of them, both Lisa and Ginevra have always been fighting for that lap. So I think that's the standout moment for me today. And that's not to diminish, of course, our amazing medalists on the podium.
How did you find the conditions today? Challenging or kind of what you come to expect in the Setubal?
It's always challenging here in the current, the way. So yeah, that was like a race like I expected it to be. Brilliant.
Congratulations today, Ginevra. I know. You did brilliantly today. You were in the front three pretty much from the start. How did you find the race?
No, but not
The water is very cold, and for me the water cold is not very terrible. And I try to stay behind, in front of the group, and so good. Yes, I'm so happy. Congratulations on the silver, well done. Moesha, gold medalist here today. You had a really strong race, but a particularly strong second half of the race. How did you find it today?
Similar to Ginevra, it got cold in the second half, so I wanted to move forward and try and stay warm. That wasn't the original plan, but worked out in the end.
Brilliant. Congratulations. One more round of applause for our medalists today.
Oh my God, I always love these insights. Sorry, just Amisha saying that she didn't actually initially want to move forward a bit. She did, but got cold. Just really, really great insight. But I just want to jump back quickly to your question, Will, around moments that stood out. For the men, I want to shout out Sasha Veli. I think this was her breakthrough moment seems like unfair to all of the efforts that he's done before, but really good to see him performing like we know, like getting onto that podium, like I know he's so capable of doing. And I think he just had such a fantastic swim. And there have been so many great races today, and we have still two races to come tomorrow with the 3K knockouts. So exciting.
Love that. Thank you, Alice. And to everyone who's tuned in, thank you for being part of today's coverage. The good news, we're not done yet, as you said. Make sure you join us again tomorrow for the 3 kilometer knockout. It's fast, it's unpredictable, and it's where racing instincts take over. From all of us here in Setubal, I'm Will Rollo, alongside Alice Deering. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.